Welcome to Audio Branding, the hidden gem of marketing. Sound plays a more important role in human behavior and our decision-making than you may realize. In this podcast, I'll help you understand the art and science of sound so you can better influence others in business and your life. I'm your host, Jodi Krangle. Let's delve a little deeper. I was reading something about how when we're at concerts and people are listening to music in a big crowd, how people move in the same way, how they sway together, I think that makes us feel better as human beings, like we're connected to something. I don't know what your feelings are on that.
I see here a few things. First of all, you feel yourself like as a part of this big community when you're on the concert because basically there's people who enjoy this music and at least one thing in common among all of you. But what is more important here to understand is that our emotions are contagious. Because when we feel certain emotions, it's like release of smells and like micro cells that we do not feel, but our body interacts. And you know how you can step in the room where there's a lot of tension and you just feel it. And the same happens at the concert because there's a crowd and everyone releasing their emotions and you pick up on this emotion and it's like becoming one huge human being instead of every single one.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that you say that it's contagious because I think a lot of people, when they spend, you know how they say you are a sort of amalgamation of the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with. I kind of relate that to what you're talking about there. Like our emotions are contagious. So if those people are not very happy people, then you are likely to not be a very happy person.
Yeah.
So, it's really interesting. I think as human beings, we are very social animals, and definitely sound is a part of that, certainly. And I know that people use playlists, and you had mentioned that you use a playlist for releasing emotions. I know people use playlists for exercise, for instance, to motivate them and, that kind of thing. Are there other instances in our lives that you think music can make a really big difference?
Well, even just background music, very, very subtle, can influence our well-being. And also we need to understand that our voices is also the sound. And being in different situations with different people, just from their voices, you can feel different way. For example, I'm sure you have people in life near which one you feel like, oh, this is soothing sound, like you calm down. Near one, you're like, okay, let's do this, and this kind of energy. And even that level of consciousness sometimes help us to elevate our well-being in general, because if you know that no matter what you do, how you try, if you're around this person and you feel like literally bad after that, there's to consider why, what's happening. Is it sounds? Is it emotions? What's there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned that we can use the voice as a tool of self-healing.
Yeah.
So, just sort of getting more into what you're talking about there. How does that actually work? Can you explain a little more about using voice for your own healing?
A lot of people talk the way they talk in everyday life, but they need to understand that most of our way how we talk, our intonations, our high or low, everything is connected to the people around us. And it's basically the habits that we picked up early in the childhood and we carry on in the life. And if we want to change and shift how we feel, and our voice can change and shift, as we change and shift like our surrounding, it first of all. Second of all, even just like humming, it's open up our throats and it's help us to connect with ourselves, like because it's like these deep vibrations that happen, and it's like going into resonance with your own body. And I have a friend, she's a vocal coach, and she talks a lot about that she feel when the client is not connected with themselves because they cannot perform at the same level. They cannot find their own voice. They sound like that, but not like themselves. And it's going from vocal exercises can help you like just to bring connection back to yourself, not to sound like someone, just reproduce some sounds and hear them and feel them and feel like how your throat open and feel all this like structures, voice structures, how it's work. It can help you connect with yourself and be your own self.
Yeah, definitely. How has that shown up in your own life? Do you use that as a therapy for yourself?
I used to take vocal classes just for myself because I felt like I need it. And I've also know that through the time it's evolved a lot because it helped me like literally understanding myself better. And it's hard to describe in a words like particularly why it's happening and what, because it's basically from the connection with the self. But the way I talk, the way I feel how I talk, the way it resonates with me, it's totally different level than it was before I started this journey. And even just recording some videos or some audios and listen to yourself, it also can help, because I know a lot of people, like almost all people, when they listen to recordings, they're like, oh, what's happening there? It's something not familiar voice. But it's
Yeah.
starting there. It's starting from just listening to yourself. It's starting from connecting with yourself. And you will feel that, okay, this is something off. For example, some people can feel confident, but talk very like loudly, and other person would not perceive this as a confident. And basically what's happening there is there's disconnection between you and your voice. And vocal exercises, doing this kind of practices will help you connect the dots and be and present and sound in the same way.
Yeah, it's tough, and I mean, as someone who makes her living from her voice, I mean, you have to get used to the sound of your own voice, and as you said, when you listen to it on a recording, you're like, is that really what I sound like? And I think a lot of people are not happy with how that sounds, but it's because I think that our voice resonates in our head to ourselves, but then whatever we're recording is what other people hear, not what we hear. And so we're expecting something else. And then we listen to our recording and we're like, huh, who's that? So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I like that point of us being able to use our voices to get more connected with ourselves. I know, for instance, when I do a singing performance, I mean, and then there's the added part of being in front of an audience, which is something that's a little nerve wracking for me. I have like a little bit of stage fright. So yeah, you go into a situation like that and you do a performance and you have to let go. Like you have to just do it and let go and live in the music, because no one's after perfection, and they often won't know if you made a mistake. They're just listening to be entertained or, to feel something. And so if you're too much worried about how perfect it is, it takes away from the performance. So, and I'm sure you've experienced that with any performances that you've done, even probably with the videos that you put out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you just have to sort of let it flow, let it go, and just do it. And I think as I get older, I get more comfortable with that. I don't know how you feel about that, but yeah, it takes time.
Yeah, it's definitely take time, take practice, and
Mm-hmm.
the more you do, the faster you will connect with yourself. But also, while you were talking, it reminded me about how you feel the music, because
Yeah.
I recall now that before I was so connected with myself. I was like in total disconnect. I do all the right things. I like had a good job, had an education, all that stuff, but I wasn't fully me, I would say. And as I took the dance classes, I did all the moves. But when I now looking at those old recordings, I see that I didn't felt the music. I was just doing the moves under the music. And I was looking at those videos and I just felt like how much it would increase the performance level of performance if I was connected, if I was feeling every single beat of this move. And it
Yeah.
was just not the hand, but it was the hand. And it's totally different motion from inner
Hmm.
perspective and the outer perspective as well.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. So, how did you get yourself better at that? Because I'm assuming you've been practicing. So how do you get yourself to better connect with what you're hearing?
Well, I would say it's practice, practice, and one more time practice.
Uh huh.
Because if you will just sit and think, okay, I want to do something to feel better, then like nothing will, not much will happen. But it's a lot of work, and it's and through sound and from different other practices. And there's no like one fits all rule in here because everyone journey is different. But doing all those little things, just listening, just feeling, just connecting with yourself, even just laying few minutes in the bed before you go to sleep and feeling every single part of your body will help you connect. And listening to the sound of yourself will help you to connect. And even those like affirmations that are popular nowadays, they will won't work if you just like read them or tell without believing in that. You need to put like really emotions onto those words, into how you pronounce them. Because you can say, I am confident, but it wouldn't be the same if you say, I am confident. It's totally different perspective and totally different level.
Yeah, I can't remember who was telling this. I should probably go back and look at this, but she said if you go to the mirror and you put your hands up and you're like, I believe this, that somehow it just makes a better impression in your mind. Like you actually believe it. Like
Yeah.
you actually raise your hands and you like, look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, yeah, this is, So yeah, I think there's something to be said with actually believing the words that you say as opposed to just speaking them. So
Yes.
definitely. Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to get a little philosophical here and I want to ask you why you think sound matters
Well,
in
sounds
our
is something.
lives,
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
I would say sound is something that is literally every single moment of our life.
Hmm.
From the moment of our first like heartbeat to the last heartbeat of ourselves. We literally, if you do not put yourself strictly specifically in this kind of situation, you're constantly hearing the sounds. It could be voices, it could be music, it could be sounds of nature, it could be like just humming of the air conditioner. Every single moment, even when you move, you do subtle sounds. Just we used to not like our brain filter all that out so we don't go crazy. But you're surrounded with the sound every single moment. And it's important to be in consideration of this because, for example, I know that if I go to the loud place, if it's concert or kid's birthday or whatever it is, I wouldn't budge there like more than 40 minutes. I will just have a headache. And you can be literally cautious about all this kind of situations. Like if you feel that on the nature, you feel better. So spend some time being in the nature, listening to the sounds, listening to the chirping of birds or crickets, whatever you feel, right? And it's kind of sounds similar, simple, just like, well, listen to the music, okay, 5 minutes, but it can go a long way.
Yeah, I think we all need a little. Well, okay. I think there are introverts and extroverts, and there are certain ways that people find peace. And not all of it is with quiet. And, some people really need to listen to music. And I my husband, for instance, he can't sleep unless he's like listening to a television show or some kind of thing, right? Like he needs what I call media wallpaper. So it's like it's in the background. It's just always there. But I think that a lot of us are using that as a crutch in a lot of cases, and just have that in the background of our lives on a regular basis so that we can concentrate on other stuff. I guess it depends on how you were raised. I think he was raised with like a very loud environment at home and he had to study despite it. So he kind of gets some kind of focus from that. I don't know. But it's interesting how you also talked about the children's birthday party and being there for like 40 minutes max, or you get a headache. And I think a lot of us are less conscious of the bad sounds in our lives than we are of the good sounds. And I think we need to guard ourselves against those as well, because I've like several people I've interviewed on this show have said that you can close your eyes when you go to sleep, but you can't close your ears. So, I mean, you could wear earplugs, I guess. We're kind of, picking nits here, but, but yeah, I think we're less cautious of bad sounds than we should be. And it's something to definitely pay attention to.
Yeah, and it's definitely important aspect of our lives. And we can start with a small thing, just like when you feel that something off, just pause for a second and ask yourself, what exactly is off? Is it the music? Is it the feeling? Is there a physical needs? Like literally just pause it for a second and ask yourself this question. And it's important, but not a lot of us used to it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Not a lot of us are asking that question. I think we should be. So just moving on to what you're working on now, I'd love to know where your inner work is going. What are you planning on doing with your community, and what's on your plate right now?
Yeah. Well, now I'm focusing on building my community, and I'm working on launching my group program, because I know that one-on-one is like important for a lot of people, but there's a lot of people who need this sense of community and it will help them best. And I'm working on the program. Basically, it's to like how to break free from social scripts and live the life on your terms, and how to bring more joy, more fulfillment. And one of the biggest tools that I use in my practice, whatever I'm doing, it's guided visualizations, and I just record them. And I have kind of gift that when I talk to the person that I'm recording this to, I just see and feel what exact images it should have. But it also like the sound. The tone of the voice, and while do visualization, I just feel where I need to go high, where I need to go lower, slower, faster, and it's also influence. So yeah, sounds it's one of the tools that I use for now. Like for a lot of people, it can be easier for them to like listen to those audio recordings and do them just doing by themselves.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And visualizations, I think, are very important for people who need more self-conscious or self-confidence, pardon me. So, like the affirmations you would do in the mirror, I guess. It's kind of like play your audio in the background. And yeah, that's really good. I'm glad to hear that the community is coming into focus. Yeah. Yeah, that's really wonderful. So how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about what you're doing?
Sure, they can reach me in my website innerbloomer.com, or on my Instagram it's Anna Bohuslavska, and I am more than happy to get in touch, get connected, and help to bring more joy and fulfillment in everyday life.
Wonderful. Yeah. I wanted to ask you too, why the name Inner Bloomer? Where did that come from?
Well, I'm a strong believer that every single one of us has this inner potential to be the best person they dream of. And all it takes is to create right surrounding, right microclimate, right, like all this holistic approach to our well-being. And it's all started within ourselves, and we all have everything we need within ourselves, and it's bloom from inside out. That's how it's inner bloomer.
Okay, I love it. Well, people should definitely check that out. I think they'll get a lot from participating. And I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, Anna. This has been really a great conversation. And I love that you're using psychology and the sound psychology and music and all of that to help us blossom from within. I think that's really great. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I literally enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Well, that's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. And if you like what you heard, why not tell a friend about this podcast? It's available in all the usual locations. Until next time.